I would say the number one thing that has moved my career forward and has helped me develop my ear as a producer more than anything else. So I've been a producer for almost a decade now. And as you do whenever you've been doing something for this long, I've learned a few things along the way. But sometimes I will learn something and I will just think, gosh dang it, why did I not learn this sooner? Everything I've done up to this point would have been so much easier had I known this one thing. So today I'm just gonna break down some of the things that I wish I knew as a beginning producer. Hopefully you get something out of this. But before I do that, let me introduce myself. Hi, I'm Seth. I'm a remote pop producer. I specialize in turning a songwriter's voice memo into a finished song ready for Spotify. Songs I've produced have been on these playlists. I've written and produced an entire album that went on Warner Music. And if you have a pop vision that you want to get off the ground, check out the top link in my description and we can get started. Now on to the rest of the video. Okay, by far, one of the things that I really wish that I knew at the beginning was listen to music. I know it sounds like very obvious, but you would be shocked at how many times I will go months on end producing stuff, EQing kicks and snare drums, and I'll be like, wow, I don't even remember the last time I just listened to music for fun. If you want to be good at a craft, you need to understand the perspective of somebody who is on the other side of the fence. If you are a novelist, you need to read a bunch of novels. If you're a filmmaker, you need to watch a lot of movies. And if you are a producer, you need to listen to a lot of music. That just comes with the territory. Stephen King talked about how if you are too busy to read, then you are too busy to write. Seriously, pick a time of day where you just go on a walk and you just listen to music for 20 minutes. I would say the number one thing that has moved my career forward and has helped me develop my ear as a producer more than anything else is having a daily walk time where I just listen to music for 30 minutes, make it a priority. I would say that rolls into the second one, which I would call healthy comparison. And to distinguish what I mean is unhealthy comparison is looking at all these producers online on Instagram and TikTok and saying, oh wow, their track sounds so much better than mine. I will never be that good. That's bad comparison. Healthy comparison is where you have a select few producers that inspire you, that you know are high quality, or maybe there's a mix that you really love, and you'll use it as a way to ballpark certain aspects of your production. I was doing this with Ed Sheeran's Bad Habit a few days ago, and I just had the song opened on Spotify because I was trying to recreate it, and I wasn't trying to emulate the song perfectly, but there were general aspects about it that I was trying to emulate. So when my production wasn't really hitting the way I wanted to, I went back and listened to Ed Sheeran and thought, okay, his snare drum has a bit more attack and it's a bit deeper. Also, it's not as prominent in the mix as mine is. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Those are 3 changes I need to make. And I made those changes and it sounded a lot closer to what I was going for. Using healthy comparison in that sense can really help you move fast in your production journey. Now we're gonna get into some technical stuff. Learn basic EQ. Like even if you're like, well, I'm not a mixing engineer, I'm gonna be passing all my stuff off to somebody else for them to mix. Even if you're that person, you should learn some basic EQ stuff. And when I mean basic, I mean really basic, like high pass, low pass, and a shelf. So much of your production work is just gonna be tightened up the second you start throwing a high pass on elements that don't require low end, or throwing a little bit of a low pass on this bright guitar that doesn't really need that brightness. And just some basic cleanup like that can go a long way into making your production sound a lot richer and a lot less muddy and cluttered. Another reason why you really wanna know basic EQs is because when you're using things like reverbs or delays, the best way for you to clean up your mix that has a lot of reverb and delay on it is to just high pass and low pass your reverbs and delays. Find the section of the sound that your reverb and delay is actually giving you, the sound characteristic that you like from it, and then just filter out anything that you're not using. Because any muddy frequencies that are going into your reverb are just making those muddy frequencies longer and more pronounced in your mix, so you might as well just filter them out anyway. Most reverbs you look at will have some kind of high pass and low pass filter. So yeah, just dial that in. The next thing that I think holds a lot of beginning producers back is stock sounds. Now I tread lightly here. This is the one place where what DAW you have does matter. Because while it's true that a mix in one DAW versus another DAW does not sound different, if you're using stock sounds, using Ableton versus Fruity Loops versus Cubase, they're all gonna sound very different. Stock sounds are not universally good. And what I see a lot of beginning producers struggle with is they're trying to get professional, high quality tones out of a stock plugin that either isn't capable of producing it, or it requires a lot of sound design knowledge that this beginning producer does not have. Seriously, don't be afraid of presets. And that rolls into the next point that I have, which is if you have a favorite preset, save it somewhere so that you can easily access it. Like, this is kind of a workflow thing, but I find so many producers don't realize how many times they are repeating the same mundane action over and over again, when that whole process could be streamlined if they just saved the preset that they like and put it in a place where it's easy to find. Same thing with drum tones, or even coming up with template sessions. If you know that you are making rock music and electronic music, make a rock music template with all of your plugins that you use for rock music, save it as a template, then make an electronic music template so that when you are getting into producer mode, you can just pick a template and then roll. And so many of the tiny actions that you're doing over and over and over again for every single session, most of them are just done and you can just produce a lot faster. Another thing that rolls into that is using sends. The reason that I'm specifically pointing this out is because I see a lot of beginning producers who want a reverb on something, and they'll just throw the reverb plugin on that one sound, and then they'll think, oh, I want reverb on this other sound, and then they will throw another reverb plugin on that other sound, and this will just accumulate to the point where they have like 12 reverbs, and it's weighing down their computer, and they could literally just put one reverb on a send and have everything going to that. Especially when you're in the beginning producer stages, most of you probably don't have extremely powerful computers, and chances are most of the time when you guys are using reverb, there's not a whole lot of variety in it anyways. Like, you have like one reverb plate sound that you're using. So instead of duplicating that sound over and over again, like, seriously, just use a send and have everything going through that. And if you do tend to use more than one reverb sound, guess what? You can just make another send, and you can blend different amounts of them depending on what instrument you're using. I do that all the time. I'd say another thing that really holds beginning producers back is they produce without a vision. Like, they will learn this synth technique, they'll learn something like sidechaining, and they'll start using all of these techniques to make a track or a beat, and they'll just throw stuff in there, but they won't really think about what's the story of this beat. If this beat was a place, where would it be? If I had an artist sing on this, what kind of story would they tell? And that type of stuff is really what makes a production feel like a song. If I'm just throwing random stuff into a session, it can become a jumbled mess very quickly, and it won't really help me become a better producer. That rolls into another point, which is really try to plan out like intentional practice for your productions. Like the same way that when you go to a gym, you have leg day, you have arm day, there are different aspects of your growth that require separate attention. So maybe one day a week, you are going to work on your storytelling as a producer. You're going to take this creative prompt and make a beat from it. And then maybe another day, you're going to focus on more of a technical aspect like EQ and really try to train your ear to hear EQ more. Like, really make sure you're practicing stuff that's actually going to develop you as a producer. Oh, I'm just going to have fun making this synth sound weird. That stuff is great, and you should have time for that too. It's just you should also have intentional practice time along with that. Another thing that I think most producers get wrong is actually just the arrangement of musical parts. And this is something that's really hard to teach people who start learning music through production and they don't have something like a band background. Because with a band, you learn very quickly that each musical instrument has roles, like the rhythm section versus the guitars and the keys, and that they're all supposed to sort of fill their own unique role in the song, and that they really need to be intentional about not stepping on each other's feet. An example of this, if I am a guitar player and I'm playing on a band with a piano player, and the piano player is playing really low on the keyboard, and he's playing these big fat chunky chords, and he's going don, 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 and he's just doing straight quarter notes like that. Me as an acoustic guitar player, I might put my capo up and play something a bit higher on the neck, like dee-dee-dee-dee, and then I'm gonna try to make something a bit rhythmically different. And when I do that, it fills out the sound a lot more because A, I'm in a different frequency range as him. If I just went chugging low on the chords, we'd be in the same range and it would be all muddy. But then also I'm rhythmically doing something different than him. So our two parts actually stand out on their own while we're playing together, but we're also not stepping on each other's feet. And that simple example follows through all the way to when you're producing something with like 100 tracks in it. The key to having a larger production sound good is making sure those individual elements aren't stepping on top of each other accidentally. Again, this is just something that takes practice. You develop an ear for it after a while, but yeah, it's just worth keeping a note on. And then this is gonna get me in trouble. The thing that I feel too many beginning producers focus on is buying new plugins. I know this kind of goes against the stock sound point that I made, but I just see so many many young producers, and they will just see these larger producers say stuff like, dude, Omnisphere is the best. Dude, the FabFilter stuff is amazing. Dude, all of these Waves plugins are not replaceable in my workflow. And to clarify, all of those plugins are good, but I will see so many producers and they will have like a shopping cart of like all of the plugins that they want to get, and they will hold themselves back from producing until they get all of those plugins, and most of the time they don't need them. Like, obviously, depending on what DAW you have and what stock plugins you have, you're going to be held back in that regard. But once you spend like a couple $100s on plugins, if you're select about which ones you buy, you're basically good. Like, don't get caught in this web of thinking that you need the newest and shiniest plugin in order to be a producer. Like, I know some people who are producing right now using stock sounds from Reason and like an old version of Reason, and their stuff sounds good because they know how to do some basic sound design stuff. They can go to Splice or something like that for some drum samples, and they just know how to get around their software. So yeah, please don't use, oh, well, I don't have Omnisphere as an excuse to not produce. Literally, millions of songs were produced before Omnisphere ever existed. You have more variety of sounds right now on your phone in GarageBand than what most professional studios had in the 80s. You have enough to get started right now. And yeah, those are my 10 points. I really hope I haven't scared anybody off from producing with this video. Music production is amazing and it's super fun. It's more fun than any video game I've ever had, and it has unquestionably changed my life for the better. It's an art form and it's worth every second you put into learning how to be better at it. But yeah, I just wanted to clear up some misconceptions that I see all the time. If you enjoyed this video, please hit subscribe, and I will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.